Okay, so my name is Christina Kunkel, and I'm the Program Director for the Norcal Procurement Technical Assistance Center, or PTAC for short. I'm just going to briefly speak about the PTAC program before I hand the mic over to our talented procurement specialist, Christina Jones. So the Norcal PTAC is one of about 100 procurement technical assistance centers across the US. We are a federally funded nonprofit organization funded by the DLA, or Defense Logistics Agency, and hosted by Humboldt State University up in Arcata, California. And we're funded to provide free services to businesses in Mendocino, Humboldt, Trinity, Shasta, Siskiyou, and Del Norte counties. We may be able to serve other clients outside this region on a case-by-case basis, so please call me if you're outside our service area, and I'll either determine our ability to serve you or assist you in finding another PTAC or resource nearest you. If you are within our region, please give me a call if you're not already working with us, and my direct phone number is at the bottom of these slides, 707-826-3922. And we provide 3 core services, all of which are free to eligible clients. First, we provide one-on-one counseling. Our experienced procurement specialists can assist with SAM registration, DUNS numbers, certifications like the HUBZone and others, crafting capability statements, GSA, schedules, as well as any other government contracting topics. We can help you understand where your business fits in the government marketplace and how to market yourself. And second, we provide free webinars and in-person workshops like this one on government contracting topics. And third, we can set you up with a free email bid matching service with daily access to federal, state, and local opportunities. We also post local opportunities on our Facebook page, so make sure to like us. The link is at the bottom of our slides. For example, we posted a $6 million opportunity just yesterday for a general contractor in Humboldt County. So if we have anyone on this call who's a general contractor in or near Humboldt County, please be in touch and I'll send that information along. And the free counseling and bid matching services are only available to clients within the region map I showed you on the previous slide, and some others on a case-by-case basis, as I mentioned. But the free workshops and webinars are provided at no cost to anyone in any region who's interested in attending. So to apply for our services, visit norcalptac.org and click on the big green button on the front page. Again, don't hesitate to call if you have any questions about your eligibility for our services, and the phone number is listed in the footer. That's my direct line. And so a quick housekeeping note, you're all muted to avoid distractions in the background. If you have any questions during the presentation, please click on the chat button on the bottom of your screen to send a message, and Christina will have about 10 minutes at the end to answer all your questions. So now I am pleased to welcome Procurement Specialist Christina Jones.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Christina. Again, I'm Christina Jones, and I'm a procurement specialist with the Norcal PTAC. Some of you, I can see from the those who are signed in, may have attended the certification webinar I conducted last month. And during that seminar, I talked briefly about HUBZone and how many companies in our service area are in HubZones. So today, I will be talking to you in detail about the program and how it might benefit you. So our objectives today are listed here. A general program overview. We're going to review eligibility requirements, what's required, what things that can disqualify you, hurdles to overcome. We'll look at the HUBZone map. We'll look at that a few times, and just how it, the map you will see will just show the areas that are already designated. It'll show redesignated areas, so we'll look at that. We'll do an overview of the application, which is really nice because you'll be able to see the actual questions that you'll be asked when you go through the process and be able to refer back, because again, this is being recorded, and also you receive a copy of this presentation at the end So you'll be able to look at the actual questions that you'll be going through and the steps you'll go through in order to complete the process. We'll review common problems associated with certification, with the HUBZone certification in particular, and how to maintain certification once certified. So let's begin with the program overview. So what is HUBZone? HUBZone stands for Historically Underutilized Business Zone. And basically that just means it's firms that are, areas that are underserved. And so that may be a distressed area, areas of low income or high unemployment, or both. So, and firms that are located in these areas and offering job opportunities to those in the communities will benefit from a HUBZone certification. So just a quick note here at the bottom of that, at any time there are approximately 5,000 small firms certified. And that's actually a relatively small number, which is why we're having this presentation today. A part of the reason, when you think of, the entire United States, a lot of that is because of companies who may qualify but not maintain the requirements or miscalculate what it takes to for principal office, or also residencies. Talks about specific examples of how to make sure you qualify and also maintain that certification. So again, this is just a reiteration of what I talked about in the previous slide. We increase employment opportunities by companies located in hub zones and providing jobs for those who live in those areas, which also extends or stimulates capital investment. So this is the regulation, the FAR regulation that regulates HUBZone, and FAR standing for Federal Acquisition Regulation, for those of you who didn't attend the seminar last month. And this is, the FAR is one section, the acquisition section of the Code of Federal Regulations. So what you're seeing here is CFR, stands for Code of Federal Regulations. And what this code says is for HUBZone that these regulations apply to all federal agencies that have one or more contracting officers. It does not apply to state or local government contracts. However, many states and local counties and cities have their own HUBZone programs, and you can look those up on their websites. So key program benefits. So again, last month we discussed 23% of all contracts are designated for small business. And of those 23%, 3% is designated for HUBZone firms. So that's one of the benefits. Contracts are set aside specifically for companies who are certified. So they're the only ones that can bid and receive those contracts. Also, sole source awards is one of the few certifications where they can sole source a contract directly to you, which basically means it doesn't need to be competed. As long as you qualify as far as being capable and able to provide the product or service, and you are certified as a HUBZone. The third one is also a very key benefit, and that's the 10% price evaluation preference. This applies only to full and open competition, but gives HUBZone firms a leg up, and I'll show you why. So in this example, contractor A is a large business, and they bid $10 million on the contract. Contractor B is you, a HUBZone, and you bid $10,750,000. Now, in this situation, you would win. The reason you would win, you would be considered the lowest bidder because under the price preference rule, 10% is added to the large contractor's bid, which, as you can see here, would make their bid $11 million, which would exceed the amount that you bid, so you would win this bid. So there are situations where you wouldn't want to exercise this price preference, and you may say, why wouldn't I want to do that? Well, if you exercise this particular ruling, you are required to perform 50% or more of the work. So if you thought maybe I'm going to hire several subcontractors and have them perform the work and move on and work on other projects, you couldn't do that if you took the price preference. Also, if you were in a joint venture and the joint venture aggregate would need to perform at least 50% of the work. So that's the reason why you may want to decline accepting the price preference. So the SBA regulates and implements the HUBZone program. What that means is that they underwrite the program, they determine whether or not you're eligible and approved. They maintain the list. So what that means is that you can't log into SAM or into your dynamic small business search and update and state that you're HUBZone certified just because your company is located in the HUBZone. You have to be approved by the SBA, and the SBA is the only one that can list you as a qualified HUBZone firm within the system. Excuse me. Also, they are the only ones that handle the protest of eligibility. So any protest regarding if you want to dispute whether or not you're eligible, you would dispute that directly with the SBA. If there was a size standard dispute or something like that, you may dispute that with the agency that you're bidding with. So we're going to go through the types of HUBZones. There are 5 kinds. Qualified non-metropolitan county. So that's an area that is not like a metropolitan city. A rural area, for example, qualifies as a HUBZone, or many of them, not all of them. A qualified census tract, that's typically like a large area. Just for example, LA area, maybe there are certain areas, designated areas within the county that are HUBZone because there is high unemployment. It's considered a distressed area. All Indian land qualifies as HUBZone, and certain base closure areas qualify as HUBZones. Also, one that I don't have listed here are usually universities where colleges are located are usually HUBZone areas as well. Qualified disaster areas, and just to note that when a county or a tract loses its HUBZone qualification, is redesignated for 3 years. So what that means is that if you qualify for HUBZone right now, and then you look out there on the map 6 months later and find out, hey, this is no longer a HUBZone designated area, you are grandfathered from the time it was redesignated as non-HUBZone as a HUBZone. So you have 3 years to either move to a location that is within a HUBZone, or 3 years to continue in the program. So just something to note, which as with my final note I have here, that areas change multiple times a year. You want to check the map, not every month, but maybe every quarter at least. Check the map and just make sure you're still in a HUBZone so you can plan accordingly. So here's a picture of the map. What you'll see, there's a link here also, HUBZone Map, if you can see over to the right here, which would link you directly to this map. When you pull up the map, there will be an area for you to enter your address. You enter your address and it'll tell you whether or not you qualify or you don't qualify. So it's important, again, to look at this map, whether or not you qualify from time to time, to make sure you continue to qualify. And also just to, I wanted to bring up here a picture of California to just kind of show our designated area, what areas are covered. So you can see the legend there, what qualifies, what doesn't qualify, what's redesignated. So maybe you're in an area, as I mentioned before, that's redesignated, and you want to start planning so that you continue to stay in the program. So let's look at the eligibility requirements. You must be small, and that's for all of the small business certifications as we previously discussed. And that's based on your North American Industry Classification System code, your NAICS code. So it could be based on the number of employees. 100 or less employees qualifies you at small. It could be, based on revenue, sales revenue, 23 million or less, or something like that. So just check your North American Classification System code and make sure that you qualify as a small business. Always, as I mentioned also on the previous presentation, but for those of you that weren't there, you must be, for any small business certification, owned and controlled at least 51% by the applicant. The applicant in this case would be a U.S. citizen, a CDC, or an agricultural cooperative, or an Indian tribe. Actually, there's one more that was just approved, and that's the Native Hawaiian areas are also, some of them are designated as HUBZones as well. Your principal office must be located within a designated hub zone, and we'll talk about how to identify your office and make sure that it's actually a principal office. And then 35% of your employees at least must reside in a hub zone, not necessarily the hub zone that your company is located in, but within a designated hub zone according to the map. And just remember that there are different rules that apply for tribal governments, Alaska Native corporations, the Hawaiian corporations I just mentioned, CDCs, and small agriculturals. So you can click on this link, which lists the specific rules that are different, or you can also contact us at the PTAC, and we can help you go through the requirements to determine what's different and confirm qualification. So why the declines? I mentioned in a previous slide that there are only about 5,000. I think I heard recently, actually, there are only 4,000 companies within that are HUBZone certified. And here are some of the reasons for the declines: not meeting the 35% employee HUBZone residency requirement, or the principal office, or both. And so sometimes companies may play really close to this 35%, and maybe someone leaves the company, or within the time that they're applying for certification, for instance. So when they started the application, they did qualify. Now, just a few months later, they don't qualify. So playing really close to that 35% mark instead of, having more like 60% would really be ideal. But if not, at least getting a little closer to 60% than 35 would be great to anticipate things like that when employees leave the company. Not meeting the principal office requirement, we'll talk specific examples about how, you may be confused about meeting the requirement when you're actually not meeting it, or not meeting both. So another tip here is about the definition of an employee. You can, the SBA does consider all types of employees, so it could be an employee from a temporary agency, but what they're kind of warning you here is just, they look at all the totality of the circumstances. So to determine if, the temporary employee is being used to qualify, but really they're not working the minimum amount of time. So just remember to count your employees correctly, review the FAR regulation, and again, consult with us if you have any questions about whether or not you qualify. So here's our first example on principal office. So Company Inc. is a small company that makes widgets. Their headquarters is located in an urban area that is not in a hub zone, according to the map. The two owners and an administrative support person spend the majority of their work hours there. The company has a manufacturing site across the street from the headquarters located in a qualified census tract. The owners and the admin all live in a hub zone a few miles away. There are 6 employees at the manufacturing site. One of them is part-time and works only 20 hours per week. Only one of the 6 employees who works at the manufacturing site lives in a hub zone. Does this company meet the principal office requirement? Well, the first thing I want to state is that just like I'm sure when you were in school, there were word problems, there's a lot of extra information that you don't need in order to determine the principal office requirement. So we're going to hone in on what it is we do need. The answer here is yes. And the simple reason is that although the company headquarters is not in a hub zone, the 3 key employees, or in this case, the key employees, the officers and the admin work in the company headquarters. However, they own or lease another facility that is in a hub zone, and the majority of their employees work at that facility. So yes, it will qualify. So the key here for this principal office is that, the majority of the employees work at the principal office, and the principal office is within a hub zone. So even though, as far as the CEO may be concerned, the headquarters is the principal office, but as far as the SBA is concerned, the manufacturing site is the principal office because most of the employees work there. Okay, let's look at another example. Company Inc. is a small IT services company. Their headquarters is located in an urban area that is not hub zone, according to the map. The 2 owners and an admin support person spend the majority of their work hours there. Across the street in a qualified census tract is a government facility where 6 engineers perform contract-specific work. The owners and the admin all live in a hub zone a few miles away. There are 6 employees at the government site. One of them is part-time and works only 20 hours every week. Only one of the 6 employees who works at the government site lives in a hub zone. Does this company meet the principal office requirement? The answer for this one is no, and the reason being is that there are 6 employees that work at the government site. However, the government site is not a hub zone facility of the firm. It's just that the off-site facility is located within a hub zone, but it's not the company's hub zone. So in this case, the principal office requirement is not met because only 3 of the employees work in 3 employees work in the company headquarters and 6 do not work in the company's designated hub zone. Let's look at a 35% residency requirement example. Company Inc. This is an example we used before, but you'll look at, see how the answers can be different. Again, we're isolating the information we need to determine eligibility either for 35% residency requirement or principal office, in this case, residency requirement. So Company Inc. is a small IT services company. Their headquarters is located in an urban area that's not in the hub zone according to the map. The 2 owners and an admin spend the majority of their work hours there. Across the street in a qualified census tract is a government facility where 6 engineers perform contract-specific work. The owners and the admin all live in the hub zone a few miles away. There are 6 employees at the government site. One of them is part-time and works only 20 hours every week. Only one of the 6 employees who works at the government site lives in a hub zone. Does this company meet the 35% residency requirement? Again, we're talking about residency here, and so the answer is yes. So what we have here is the 6 employees, there are 6 employees that live in that work in a hub zone. One of them, the one circled here, lives in the hub zone. These 3 employees, the CEO and the other officer and the admin, work and live in a hub zone. So that makes 4 of them that live in a hub zone, so therefore the company will qualify. Okay, here's one that combines both examples and is a little bit more tricky. Trainers Inc. is a small company that provides training services. There is 1 owner and 2 employees. Everyone works from their home and everyone lives in a hub zone. So does this company meet the principal office requirement? Based on what I've told you so far, you'd probably say no, because most of the employees don't work at a principal office. They all work at separate offices. And does a company meet the 35% requirement? This is the easy one, yes, because all of them live in a hub zone. So it's 100% that live in the hub zone. The answer to both is actually yes. And the reason is the SBA has determined that if, the mission of this program is to help small businesses that are helping others in distressed areas. So they won't penalize a small business who has all of their offices located in a hub zone, even if there's 1 employee in each. So this is a little bit different example from what, how you would normally calculate it, but I thought this is very important because there are a lot of businesses that operate as small and operate in their own office, live and work in their office, and have others who work for them that work off-site. Here's an ownership and control example, which is also very important to know whether or not you qualify for certification. So John Johnson is 100% owner of the Firm Inc. The Firm Inc. owns ABC LLC. John Johnson is a U.S. citizen. ABC LLC applies for HUBZone certification. So does ABC LLC meet the ownership and control requirement? The answer is no. And the reason is because the firm controls ABC LLC, and therefore, in order to qualify for the certification, you must own and control 51% of the business. In this case, the firm 100% owns ABC LLC. Okay, let's move into the application to look at exactly what you're going to be looking at when you move through this process should you decide to proceed. So before you begin, the HUBZone calculator, I have a little link there where you can calculate principal office and residency requirement through this. Well, the SBA has actually created a spreadsheet where you can calculate it. So this is a link to that. So before you begin, you want to make sure you qualify and that you can also, like I mentioned, maintain these requirements. So that is a key, the key question. A lot of times you can qualify, you're looking at it from today's date. You know, maybe you live and work in a HUBZone 100%. Okay, great. I can qualify as a principal office and also the residency requirement. But can I maintain that? Those are two things that we want to consider, and should be part of your government business plan to make sure that you stay on top of it so you can remain in the program. Currently, the SBA is not meeting many of their goals for HubZones. So, and as I mentioned, there are, you know, a small amount of firms in relation to some of the other certifications within the program. So if you can maintain, you know, the two requirements and plan for success, then it could be highly beneficial in you receiving sole source requirement contracts and just being eligible for opening up a whole new area where you could be eligible for contracts that you weren't before. So, and once you confirm that you can do that, then you want to make sure that you gather all the documentation that you need. You review the application guide, and you contact us or SBA or both for a pre-review of your documentation, so we can make sure that you're in a good place to move forward with the application. And that's important because the application must be completed in one session. So you can't log in, complete a piece, and then come back later. You have to have everything ready, so it's important to make sure that you follow these steps firsthand. Okay, we're going to look at the 7 steps for certification, just at a broad level. First, we're going to review, you want to review the HUBZone frequently asked questions, the application guide. There's a link to that there. You want to, once you've done that, gather the supporting documentation based on if it's sole proprietor, S Corp, LLC. You want to gather the requirements based on which type of business you are. You want to review and ask any questions to SBA or to us. Again, we're here to help you put together that package or also answer any questions that may not be addressed within the frequently asked questions on the HUBZone on the SBA's website. Use the calculator. I talked about that. And then step 5, actually you should do this in a reverse order. Then I have it listed here as far as making sure your dynamic small business search, that's the DSBS, and SAM are updated. So make sure you have the correct address. Maybe you've moved into a HUBZone, and so that's your current address, but what's listed in SAM is your old address, which does not qualify. That information is going to be pre-populated into the application, so you want to make sure that that's up to date before you begin. And then you're going to complete and submit your application, and then usually within 10 days, the SBA is going to require additional supporting documentation, for instance, payroll information, confirming that the employees you have employees that meet the 35% residency requirement. Just another reminder about not attempting to complete the actual application until you have gathered all the documentation, you reviewed all the questions, and you're familiar with what's required in order to be successful. So here's a screenshot of the general login system. This is just to create your password, which you'll need in order to access the system. If you have an 8A application or you started an 8A or something like that, you probably already have one of these. So what's important to note is that you must attach the HUBZone application to your business entity. So if you can see the arrow here, there's a spot where you check off HUBZone, and then business to your profile, excuse me. You click on the down arrow and your company name should be listed there. If it's not, that means you haven't created your profile, which is up here at the top here where I'm hovering over. And so you want to make sure you've created your profile and that you attach it to the HUBZone application, because this is just entering the system in order for you to see this. So once you've created your profile and you've attached it to the HUBZone application, you'll see Welcome ABC Company here at the top. and then it will show the applications that you're eligible to access. So right now, for the purposes of today, we're able to access HUBZone only. It might state 8A in HUBZone if we're applying for both. So it's important to make sure that you complete your profile and that you attach it to the application. And we can, at the PTAC, help you with that if you have a problem with attaching it, or there's some troubleshooting that needs to be done. We can help you with that, making sure that your GLS is updated. And now you're entering the application. So the step one is to verify that you're in the HUBZone as far as the SBA is concerned. So again, this is where they are going to pull information that you've already entered. Your DUNS number, which is tied to your address, the information on SAM and DSBS that I mentioned. So their first step is to verify that you're qualified. And then there's kind of another disclaimer. It's recommended that you've carefully reviewed the following information. You can see the links there. And I'll tell you, most of what's listed there you've already done. If you've done your due diligence, you've already done this by the time you're moving into this application. So now, are you ready to proceed? And now we're going to move through 17 steps. These are the 17 steps you'll need to move through in one sitting in order to apply for the program. So again, you cannot log in, log out. You have to complete it at one time. So you want to have all your information together. So what would be here is they would have your DUNS number listed here because they've pulled it from the profile that you connected from the SBA, from the GLS login, and then also would list the address. Then we would move on to Section A is whether your location is in a qualified HUBZone. And so it'll say here, we have determined the following for the geographical location of the principal office, which will be your office, and it'll list your address. It will tell you in which areas you do or don't qualify. And then there's the contact information there. The next section. Section C is really important, ownership and control. These are the questions that really for most of the certifications you need to answer. So here's an opportunity to be familiar with what ownership and control entails, what things can disqualify you from control of your own company. So just let's look at a few examples. At least 51% of the issued shares of stock in your company, ABC company, owned a person who are U.S. citizens, okay? So maybe if, a firm is foreign owned and owns some of the stock, this may be an issue. So pay close attention to these questions. And also I suggest when you receive the PowerPoint that you, again, review these questions because this is exactly what you'll be going through when you apply for certification. And also if you apply for some other certification, a lot of these questions, again, will be relevant. This is Section D, the financial information that's required. You'll actually have to submit a balance sheet, but here's the information that you will need to input. If for any reason you're unable to provide complete financial information, you'll need to explain why, and on a case-by-case basis, they will determine if you qualify. Section E is also highly important. All of the sections are important, but just pointing out a couple of areas. This is regarding your 35% of employees working a minimum of 40 hours per month. So your 35% of your employees must live or work in a HUBZone, but they also must work a minimum of 40 hours per month. So I've had situations where they have a seasonal employee, they have a seasonal business. So, maybe only in the summer months they're busy and they hire employees, and during that time, the employees work 40 hours per month at a minimum of that. That person should not be included in the qualification because you need someone who every month, 12 months out of a year, who's working a minimum of 40 hours per month. So a seasonal employee probably wouldn't qualify. So Section F is regarding affiliation. This is something also that the SBA sees a lot of declines based upon companies that don't realize that they are affiliated and owned and controlled, are basically controlled by another entity. And so these are some of the, the entities, like a joint venture agreement may control you. There are different, or you may be affiliated and they may ultimately be the decision maker. So that's what you're trying to determine with affiliation, is to make sure that you ultimately control your own company and that you are the final say. And that again applies to most certification. Okay. And then if you get here, you've completed the application. Your HUBZone application is submitted. You receive an application number. And the next step is that they will send you an email, or to the highest ranking officer, they will send an email to basically verify that, you are applying for HUBZone, the information that you've submitted and will submit is true and accurate, things of that nature. So very simple, but an important step, and I'll go through that in a minute. You can print your application here. And then you'll receive, this is the final screen that says that your application has been successfully submitted. You can edit up until the time you complete the electronic verification. Once you, respond to that email, and then it goes basically into like an underwriting mode where you're unable to edit your application. Okay, so this is what I was referring to. You receive an email. And just note that oftentimes the SBA's emails go to spam. And so please be, aware that you will be receiving this probably within 30 minutes or less of the time you submit it. So look out for it. If you don't see it, it's probably in your spam. So again, it'll be the highest ranking officer that completes the electronic verification step. And at this point, the electronic verification attests that, again, all information is true and correct. And a final note I wanted to point out here about the online application, again, it cannot be saved. It must be completed in one setting, as I've mentioned. So I just want to make sure you know that you can withdraw your application and come back at any time. So that would be the better way to do it versus having your application rejected. Let's look at some common mistakes. Your SAM or your DSBS is not updated. We talked about that one. Each page must be completed within 60 minutes. So you get, quite a bit of time to complete each page. It's just that you have to do it in one session. So don't feel that, you won't have time, to think about your answer as you're inputting the information, but it's just to know that, again, it needs to be done in one setting. To external login system information, again, SBA has the help desk that can help you, or we can help you with making sure you set it up correctly the first time so that you don't have problems accessing the system. Of course, the 35%. Supporting documents are not ready to be submitted within the time frame. So you've submitted your application and now they're asking for proof that 35% of your employees are working at the principal office. And you can't, provide that because you don't have that gathered up front. So again, please make sure that you have all the information gathered that you need and that you're not playing so close, again, to the 35% that sometime during the underwriting process you no longer qualify. Okay, insufficient supporting documentation is the #1 reason for certification delay. We've talked about that quite a bit. Assembling the documentation, responding to the email request, looking through your spam to make sure that you've not received the email and just you've received it but you've not seen it. Not understanding affiliation, we talked about that. And there's the ruling if you want to look up specifically. So consult with us or with the SBA, reach out to the HUBZone office in order to help prevent some of these mistakes up front. So that, again, your application moves through smoothly. Maintaining that certification is very important. So, it is a hurdle to get certified, but I believe it's a bigger hurdle to maintain certification. So many companies start off certified and don't maintain it. A lot of this is because, remember, the 35% HUBZone residency, maintaining, the appropriate amount. The principal office, maybe the office changed, you haven't been checking the map, and that area is no longer designated as a HUBZone, and now you no longer qualify. You've passed the redesignation period. So these are just some of the things that may affect your HUBZone status, and you want to make sure that you pay attention to. You need to manage this also as part of like managing your business to make sure, like again, that you maintain maintain certification. Here's a list of resources and tools. A lot of these things I've already discussed, just so you can click on them hopefully pretty easily, and it'll answer all your questions, hopefully things that I couldn't cover in 1 hour. Also, there's a link there for the Norcal PTAC where you'll be able to access this presentation and also sign up for services, as Christina mentioned. And if you're outside of our service area, the APTAC website, the Association of Procurement Technical Assistance Centers, the national site, you can locate your local PTAC that can assist you. Here's some upcoming workshops. So we have How to Do Business with the State of California with Wayne Gross coming up in January, 2 dates in January, and 1 date but 2 different times and locations in March. And this will, of course, will show you how to do business with the state, but beyond that, this is a great opportunity for you to network. There will be many buyers there from the state and from Caltrans, other local agencies. So particularly if you're ready, have your basic certifications in place at least, and maybe you attended the SOQ webinar and you have your SOQ ready, this will be the time to bring that out and network and meet the buyers. And then January 31st, at the end of January, I'll be conducting another webinar. This one will be on the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program. So learning about what's required in order to be successful with certification here. They have very different requirements from what I'll be conducting on February 14th on Valentine's Day, 8A certification. So sometimes they are sort of similar programs, but they do have different rules that they abide by in order to qualify. So if you're interested in the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise certification, please attend the January 31st webinar. You can sign up for that with Christina Kunkel at the phone number listed at the bottom, or also 8A certification. That's the federal certification for February 14th. You can also sign up with Christina. All right, thank you very much. And your feedback is appreciated. Please complete the evaluation form that will be sent to you after this is complete, along with the copy of the slides. And now I will take any questions that you have. Type your questions into the chat if you have any. A question from chat. SOQ is Statement of Qualifications. Okay, so that's basically states what you're capable of. Another word for that is capability statement. So it's kind of like your marketing piece, your one page, or it could be double-sided flyer that explains exactly what your business does. Great. Any other questions? We've actually got 15 minutes, so. As a question, is the owner always an employee? The answer is yes. The owner is always considered an employee. Question, what happens if there is no payroll yet? Well, you'll have to prove, you may not use a payroll company, but you have to prove that you are paying employees you are paying employees, basically, that there are actually employees. So whatever, it may not be through the formal payroll system, but Maybe you're just paying them from your business checking account and you can show a pattern of paying them within the past 90 days. Did that answer your question, Pam?
Can I speak for a minute instead
Sure.
of typing it in? Hi, nice to speak to you.
Hello.
So my reply, I was just typing it in because I work for the company and my co-founder does, but we haven't been paid and we're not being paid until we get funding because we're a tech startup. So what I'm thinking is that I won't be able to complete this certification until we can actually show that the two of us are being paid, or any other employee that we hire. Is that correct? Well, we would have to wait on this certification.
Right, because there is also the one section where I show the financial piece. So you'll need to show a balance sheet as well. So if no one's being paid, there's really not. You can write in a justification and see if they'll review it. But in general, you should have, a balance sheet. You should be able to provide the financial information. If you're not, being paid, probably you won't meet that requirement quite yet. But we can talk about it offline in more detail and
Yeah.
double check it.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So there's a question about can we get a time for the January 11th event in Reading? Christina Kunkel will be better to answer that question. You want to
Sure.
pop in? Okay.
Yeah, I'll pop in. The January 11th event in Reading is a half-day workshop. It is from 9 a.m. to noon. And for those of you interested in Eureka, it will be the same time, 9 a.m. to noon on the following day, January 12th.
Okay. I have a question. I'm having trouble getting Sam to verify my DUNS information. It has been a couple of weeks and still no update. Can PTAC help me with this, or do I need to get someone at SAM to help? We can absolutely help you with that. Contact Christina Kunkel at the phone number below, and she'll hook you up with either myself or one of the other counselors, and we can definitely help you with that. And I have a question. We have 3 owners in our S Corp, no other employees. We're all in a HUBZone. If we have all our stuff ready to apply for HUBZone status, how long does the application take to fill out? Well, you get 60 minutes per page. So, I mean, you probably don't want to use 60 whole minutes. You probably won't need that. But, whatever that is, you have plenty of time basically to complete the application. It sounds like you qualify, no other employees, you're all in a HUBZone. And I assume you're 1 or 2 examples, meaning you all working, most of you, or 2 of you, I should say, are working at a principal office within a HUBZone, or all 3 of you are working in separate HUBZones. So either way, you would qualify. But again, get in contact with us. We can help you pre-review that paperwork to make sure everything's in order before you apply. All right. I'll hang out. I mean, you can, if you don't have any other questions, it's fine, but we still have a few minutes here if anyone wants to ask anything else about certification or questions, probably with just another 5 minutes or so.
This is Phil Williams. I have a question.
Okay.
Should you wait to apply for certification after you file your first year of business taxes?
Some certifications, not all. HUBZone wouldn't be one of them. You could apply before then. For 8A, definitely. 8A requires 2 years in business. You can request a waiver in that case, but they typically require 2 years in business, and that means not just business, but income. So depending on what you want to apply for, we could talk about that. Yeah, did that answer your question, or?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, great. Let's see, Pam. No. Pam asked, will WSB certification have the same requirement to show that employees are being paid, and the answer is no. All right. Christina Kunkel, you think we're good here? Or okay, I'm going to type my email in case anyone has any specific questions about this particular webinar. Any questions about PTAC services, please contact Christina Kunkel directly. And her number is, again, listed here at the bottom. But here is my email for anyone who wanted to reach me if someone asked about a particular specific question about HUBZone. Okay, there is a question that if I don't have any employees but independent contractors, can you apply? Well, they're not employees, so you're the only employee, so you would meet the 35%, technically, because you're 100%. If you're a sole proprietor, it sounds like you're sole, it would be 100%. Meet the requirement if you work and live in a hub zone. But I also want to state that if you're using, they, like I mentioned before, they look at the totality of the circumstances. So, if you're using a lot of independent contractors, we can talk about that offline, whether or not you would qualify based on that, because sometimes in the SBA's eyes, they see it as trying to get around the rules. So let's just let's talk about your specific situation if you want to move forward with that. Okay. I think we're going to end at 10:55. It's 10:54.
Okay. Well, thank you everyone for joining us, and thanks so much, Christina, for your expert opinion on HUBZone today.
I can't. It's a little. Try again. It's a echo.
Oh, there's an echo? Christina, I'll let you close out then.
Okay. All right. Okay, so thank you everyone for attending. And I want to go back. Oops, let me get back to here. I want to just bring up the slide here. Maybe like this out, but so just a reminder, basically, to tell you to complete the survey, and also a reminder about the upcoming events to sign up for the webinars, and also attend the in-person events starting next month. Okay, thank you again, everyone, for your time, and happy holidays.